Hi, this is Mashnu, and I would like to show you this endgame because I find it very instructive. It's from a game that was played by Bobby Fischer. Bobby Fischer was playing white here in this game that was played in 1957. He was playing against William Edison with black pieces. Actually, the theme of this endgame is the power of the bishop, and you see, when sometimes people ask, what do you prefer, bishops or knights? And actually depends on the position. In the end game, when the pawns are on both wings, then most times it's better to have a bishop than a knight, because the bishop is a long range weapon. You know, it can move easily from one side of the board to the other side of the board. A knight is slower, but of course the knight has something that the bishop doesn't have, and that is that a knight can jump from a light square to a dark square, so it can cover all the squares of the board, and the bishop only half of the squares. But here in this endgame we see how Bobby Fischer shows us the correct way of using a bishop in this type of endgames. Now, I'm sure that you have seen last week the results, and perhaps even the games of the match between Carlsen and Anand, and I find that Magnus Carlsen was, especially in the endgames, superior. His endgame technique is wonderful, and that brought the idea to me to show you some endgames, instructive endgames. So I'm not going to comment on the endgames of Carlsen, because actually there are so many people right now on the YouTube commenting those games from the match that I don't think I would add much to that. So I prefer to just show you this short example and to help you understand more about endgames of bishop against knight. Alright, enough talking, let's go to the game now. This is the position, it's white to move, and perhaps you would like to think for yourself first. Just have a look at the position and decide what is a wise thing to do here. Would you like to trade the rooks, or is it better to keep the rooks on the board? What would be your plan, and what's actually your assessment of the position? Do you think white is better, or is it perhaps an equal position? Alright, you can pause the video if you like. I'm going to continue the explanation right now. What we see here in this position is clearly a better position for white. Why is this so better for white? Well, one of the arguments is that on the queen side we have 3 pawns against 2, so we have a pawn majority. On the king side, black has a pawn more, but it's a double pawn, so it's quite difficult for black to create a passed pawn here on the king side. That means that there is a big chance that we can create a passed pawn faster here on the queen side than black on the king side. Besides that, we have a bishop against a knight of the opponent. So what Bobby Fischer did here is took the rook on a8. That's the first move. Rook takes a8, and of course his opponent retook with the knight. And now again I'm going to ask you to try to guess the next move. It's not that difficult to find. Alright, so there are actually 2 good moves here. One of them is, let's say, the principle of endgames, bring the king closer to the center. But in this example, it's actually even more important to try to diminish the activity of the opponent's pieces, and that's what Fischer did here by playing the move bishop to e5. With bishop to e5, this knight is actually looking only at squares that are covered by the bishop. If this would be an endgame, a pawn's endgame, so we let vanish these two pieces, we trade them if it's possible, then the pawn's endgame is better for white, because we can simply play b4, b5 and then c6 and create a pass pawn there, while black will find it very difficult to create a pass pawn on this side. So a trade of the light pieces would be useful. Now what did black do here? He played king to h5. So what black wants is to advance the king on this side and see if he can advance then g4, trade this pawn for the pawn on f3 so that the king can walk to h4, h3 and capture the h3 pawn, and then later perhaps the f3 pawn and create a pass pawn on the king side. That's the plan of black. Now how did white react? Again, if you would like to pause the video, do it now. I'm not going to tell you each time, so just after each black move you can do it if you would like to exercise and to train. Otherwise you can also watch the whole video and just simply listen to the explanation. Alright, there are two good moves here. b2, b4 would be a good move to try to create a pass pawn here on this side. Another good move is what Fischer did, is that to bring the king towards the center. He played king to d3. Black plays now the move g4. So again, black is trying to make a breakthrough on that side of the board. White replied now b4. The plan is clear, to create a pass pawn on the queen side. And notice that this knight is completely helpless right now. As long as we keep the bishop on e5, then this knight is a piece that doesn't do anything. Alright. Now the next move, a6. So black is preventing white from playing b5. But of course that's not a big problem, because what do we do then? We play a4. That's what Bobby Fischer did, and then again we are threatening b5 followed by c6. And this last sentence that I said, remember it, because it's not completely true, but I'm going to show you why it's not completely true later. I said we are threatening b5 followed by c6. Just have a look at what happened. It took on f3. White of course must retake now, because we cannot allow that pawn to advance. And now the plan of black, he continues advancing his king to capture h2 and perhaps f3, or anyway h2 and then having a pass pawn on the h file. Now white plays b5 and black takes on b5. Now if what I've told you would have been true, that we want to play a takes b5 followed by c6, then this would be the moment to take a takes b5. And to be honest, it is not a bad move at all. A takes b5 does probably win the game, but what Fischer did is so beautiful. It's really so beautiful. This is just well, I would almost say this is the art of chess. He played the move a5, so he advanced the pawn. He didn't take on b5, he advanced the pawn from a4 to a5, and now it becomes very clear. Suddenly we have two pawns against one, and the black knight cannot go closer to defend there. So what happened here is that black played king to h3, and the next move was the last move of the game. So if you want to try to guess it, go ahead. I'm sure that many of you saw it. It's the move pawn from c5 to c6. It's a wonderful move. Now we understand why a5 is so important. Black must take, because otherwise white takes here on b7, so black must take here. By the way, in this position the black resigned, but just to show you the idea. If you take here, then we have a6, and this pawn is unstoppable. The black knight cannot go to c7 where it would control a8 because of this powerful bishop that controls still all these squares where the knight could go. So I find this really an excellent example of how to use a bishop to restrict the mobility of a knight. And this pattern right here, playing b5 takes and then a5, is something that you should remember, because in pawn endgames this type of breakthroughs also happen. Just imagine all these pieces, the light pieces gone, same thing can happen, you know. If we consider this a pawn endgame and there is no knight there and no bishop here, still the same idea works. These pawn breakthroughs are very important in endgames. This is something really to remember. Alright, I hope you found this an interesting endgame, and I'll see you next time on YouTube. Goodbye.